The green was on.
No, red means it's on. Common sense doesn't prevail.
That might fault it. Because of the glare.
All right, I'm calling the meeting of the Southampton Public Safety Building Committee. It's February 5th, it's 7:05, and the meeting comes to an order. And first subject of business is the minutes. We have the minutes for November 26th in front of us. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them? They're not that long.
Yes.
Do we want to have one change and demote John Martin to Select Board?
And I would like to add my name. I think
And
I would do.
Janice Brown would like to be added.
What title would you like?
Dumb Duns. I don't know. Kanicki's assistant.
Kanicki's assistant, there we go. I'm telling you, she pitches in when all the rest of them can't keep track of me.
I tried.
Yeah.
I think Humison might be misspelled too, isn't it? It's H-U-M-A-N?
It's Rich.
Yes.
Yes.
You're here.
Sorry. The hat threw me.
Sorry, he's getting his days confused too. Do I hear a motion to
I'm sending you
accept?
guys a message about my competence.
And that's why you're in the position you're in.
We should make him chair.
Chair?
He's got to miss a meeting for that.
It's not that bad.
Then we vote him in. So I make a motion that we accept it with the changes that we just put forward.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I abstain, I wasn't present.
All right, done deal. Does the board want to reform? Does anybody else want to be chair? I'm not being smart. Does anybody want to be chair and all that?
I love it how everybody looks down.
I was going to say, did the music stop?
Make a motion to keep the board as is.
As we do.
As it is,
As it is.
Second.
such as it be.
You okay with that, Don?
Sure, yes, definitely.
You're welcome to.
Okay, a couple of updates. Originally, we were looking at having a meeting in March, so I've asked the assessor's office to pull together a list of all properties within a half-mile radius of the present fire and police station that have 3 or more acres that are vacant. So we have a list to discuss about approaching the owners about purchasing some land to build the public safety complex. That's where I was at in March, and then all of a sudden this selectman by the name of John Martin showed up and announced to me that he has a different approach to this, and I am going to turn it over to him.
It's not a different approach, is that we've been doing this for such a long time, not going anywhere. And I don't think the land on College Highway, which would be very nice to us, is coming down the pike anytime soon. So I saw this land up there. I was on the Realtor.com just perusing. There's this land on Valley and College Highway, and there's the one where the house was taken down, it got flooded near the Polish.
Harry.
There was like 8 acres or something, but I guess from what you found out, it's too wet and all that stuff. So
You
the
talking
land,
about Perry's?
Harry's, yeah.
Harry.
Yeah. So
Next to the Polish.
There's
spreading
issues
in.
with heritage, there's issues with wetlands. I don't know if the footprint's even big enough to accommodate what we want.
Who owns the cornfield next to Heritage's property?
Now it's Gieler.
John Dealer.
Gieler, yeah. Do you know who bought the one in between what Gieler bought and the Keystone? Because I looked it up on Realtor.com and it's not available anymore.
I do not know who purchased it. The rumor mill I'm hearing is that they want to make it a marijuana growing facility.
Well, no, that's not a rumor, because the gentleman has been to the select board twice, again last night. What they want to do there is they want to take that strip of land, lease it from Giller, but also there's 35 acres behind it, which is behind the houses on College Highway, the first row of houses. And he wants to put I want to say 30-acre growing facility all undercover.
Wow.
Yeah, and about 5 acres of, ancillary
Yeah.
parking and all that stuff. And he's from out of state, I forget exactly where he's from, but this is a business that they do out of state, and he's going through the process of trying to clear that.
What would be the possibility, because it looks like, just visually, driving by, it looks like there's land there at Heritage, especially if you could somehow get like that parcel over towards Keystone and that cornfield section, there'd be 3-4 acres there that would be an ideal spot, center of town. It'd take some,
Not much traffic.
That's already taken though.
Yeah.
Well, what's the problem with the drainage from the filling station?
Yeah.
The contamination issue relative to the gas station is there's a plume of influence, you like those terms,
Yes.
Groundwater.
which is radiating downstream, which is east of that property, into behind Bruce's Coombs Heritage Survey, into those other lots back
But
there.
doesn't that need to be corrected somewhere, somehow, or for anybody?
Wait a minute, how far do you want me to get in with this?
Okay, we're
This
changing
vendor's
subject.
going to have to comply with all that if he wants to go forward, right?
I see a
Anybody.
lawsuit between them and the gas company, and I don't want to be any part of that.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, I wouldn't want the town to be looking at property that
That's
has that
contaminated.
issue back there. Okay? But
I heard there was an issue.
there's actual delineations as to how far that plume goes to the easterly from Route 10, and there are some concerns there.
So it's town water and town sewer, so that can...
There is no town sewer.
Town water. So that plume would affect groundwater for potability.
Yes?
But if there's town water, that potability issue wouldn't be an issue.
It's not a town water issue, it becomes a perceived concern relative to the fact that there's a contaminant in the soils, and if you buy that land, you become part of the cleanup. So it limits you to whatever you're going to do
Well,
out
the
there.
liability of the cleanup would belong to the gas
To the owner,
station.
right? Current owner.
Not to say that you wouldn't
It would
inherit,
be the original owner.
not to say that you wouldn't inherit the liability of the gas station having a contaminated water supply there. But how would, I don't, unless you're trying to grow marijuana, I don't think that that would affect a fire station.
I just don't believe it's prudent for the town to take and look at taking possession of land that has a known contamination site, because the liabilities seem to have a way of reaching for the deeper pockets for cleanup.
Well, certainly
And you
wouldn't be the town.
certainly wouldn't want to take it if there was any liability to the town. That I agree with. But from my little bit of knowledge, which is just enough to be dangerous, I don't see a liability exposure to the town with that.
Well, it still comes back to the fact that we would have to approach the purchaser of that land,
Yeah.
and we would have to negotiate a sale of that land. Yep.
Part of the thought was if there's 30 acres in back that they're looking at, I wonder if they would give some concession in the front, we could partner with them in a way that would get us the acreage right there. Because if College Highway falls through, that's unfortunate because that's a perfect location, ideal spot. I do have concerns, when I look all the way out of Valley Road and Route 10, just because that's way out there. That's way out, just for ambulance response.
I concur fully.
Yeah, and so part of me wants to find a creative solution to something that makes more sense for all the residents
Well,
and centrally located.
we initiated a request from the assessor's office to list all these parcels for us, so we have a master list. I'm assuming that will be one of them.
But the only issue I see is what happened last time, is when you ask people if they want to sell the land, they say no. So our other option is taking it by eminent domain.
Yeah.
My guess is that isn't going to go well with the town. So if it's not available, College Highway isn't available, let's say, it would be ideal, but if it's not available, how do you get it? You have to go through eminent domain. Same with Mr. Gallagher's land. If he bought it and has a contract with these folks to build,
Yeah.
he's probably not going to want to get out of that.
And I have no problem like having a conversation with him just to see what kind of, I mean, maybe there's no viability, and you might be absolutely right, and there's nothing. But I'm probably the newbie in town, and so I was thinking that you guys might have a better relationship with him. I have a little bit of a relationship with him.
I don't really know.
I could certainly go and talk to him and say,
Yeah,
hey,
Mr. Gallagher, yeah.
I mean, I could investigate that if that would be helpful.
Well, I don't see anything to inhibit any one of us from going and talking to landowners about the possibilities.
Yeah, just because,
You know, because we all have contacts, we all know people.
yeah. I mean, that Clark Street property has always been one that's caught my eye just because of the double exit. You could get onto East Street, you could get onto College Highway, and it just has a lot of benefit to it. And you're right there across from the playground, so if you needed to have an event, a town event, you could have facilities nearby. You have Conant Park. I mean, it's just it
Not
really
much traffic, too.
builds municipality in the center of town in a positive way, I think.
And I think both of those acres were around both of those parcels were around 3 acres because they were split down the middle.
Yeah, and you're talking the 2 heritage acres?
Yeah, the 2 parcels that were between Heritage and Keystone.
Okay.
There was 2 of them.
Yeah, and Gallagher owns the 3rd one over the cornfield. Am I hearing that
No,
correctly?
as I understand it, it's the one right behind Heritage.
Oh.
Then there's another
He
one.
owns what was
Holly Gordon's.
Ollie Gordon Farm,
That's the big land behind, right?
Yeah.
and the house is down on College Highway next to,
Is that right across from Fulmer?
yes.
So that parcel would allow access to the...
Right,
to
he got that parcel.
all that acreage.
Yeah, otherwise it was pretty much landlocked.
So his access would be directly across from Fulmer, which is a horrible access.
No, his
for-
access would be Clark Street.
Would be Clark Street.
Yeah.
With
Off of
that,
with Heritage's piece.
yes.
Right, that's why Gallagher bought both of them, I believe.
Yeah.
It has been
Okay.
perked, though. There's those
Clark
poles,
Street,
it's been
you know,
perked.
Yeah.
Clark Street property, just FYI,
Yeah.
I used to hay it. And everybody thinks that the top of that property is dry.
Yeah, it's not, that's where they perked, right?
It's not dry.
But they
No, I
perked-
have no-
they perked it though,
They
right?
perked it
Well,
way
there's
back there.
those
No,
yellow
but when I say
poles.
not dry, I mean, it was still, it's decently wet up there, so
Okay.
when everybody looked up the hill.
Well, look where
everybody
the
thought-
cornfield is.
Who owns the cornfield?
Exactly, at the very bottom, right,
Keystone owns it, I
the
think,
very bottom of that cornfield is
Fletcher.
always full of water.
leases it from Keystone.
The perk-wise, if they put a building on the 30 acres, all it has to do is perk back there. It doesn't have to
Yes.
perk on Clark.
And that
Exactly.
30 acres is sand and gravel.
Yeah, so that'll...
It's just as you come down the hill towards
Yeah.
Clark Street that you
So-
change your soil.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, if nobody else, anybody who's interested, I'd say, let's go and talk to Gila just to see
Sure.
what possibilities there might be.
Doesn't hurt, right?
Doesn't hurt.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
yeah.
because, like I said, I do like the idea of keeping fire, EMS, emergency response, I'm sure it would benefit PD to some degree, but they're all over town, so less so. But fire, EMS, definitely, we're centered at the station.
One thing...
I mean, tonight we were first of all brought in for this one.
Yeah, but before we get off this, I think we should look at everything.
Yes.
I think when it was listed, they were each around 300,000. So
Okay.
that's one thought to keep in your head,
Yeah.
$600,000.
Yeah.
It's still less than developing the site next door, which was about $1 million, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just saying, we got to get something going, and this came to mind when I looked in the one up there. But I think, if this is viable, we keep it in, and if it's not, we throw it out. My only concern is there's not going to be something available, and then we're still sitting here 5 years down the road. You know what I mean?
And Warren, I've been doing this for 12 years on this committee. I'm the sole survivor of the original committee. Yeah.
So,
I'm the one who originally brought this up in 2001, I think.
Yeah, but you didn't form a committee.
No, nobody
let's not
wanted
go there.
to. Nobody wanted to.
So let me ask you a question. Let me make an assumption, okay? There is no other land in town that's going to be available for the next 5 years. With that in mind, is this even, if this is the land I'm talking about, is that Valley Road one in contention, or would you still say no? I think we just need to rule it in or out, you know what I mean?
I personally, I have a concern, it's so far out.
Well, I guess, and our concerns, but I think these two are really the key. I'm not disagreeing with you, but you know what I mean? Can
My-
they function?
My concern really is more for EMS,
Yeah.
because the ambulance is stationary unless it's on a call for service where patrols aren't. And, you know, we delegate our 2 patrols in districts, so they're usually out.
They're split,
They're
yeah.
split, where
Okay.
EMS is, they're waiting for that call at the fire station.
That's for you two folks, yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like, honestly, I feel like it's a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
I feel like to say, yeah, pull the trigger on that land because it's available, in a 5-year time frame could be not doing the best service to the town on a 50-year perspective. It feels like the town would be best served in its long term to have it centrally located.
Yeah, I think we'd all agree on that, yeah.
Yeah, so the rock is no station, and the hard place is settling for a station that's way out and may not be the best choice for a town in a long-term perspective.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned the land beside Keystone. They own a field?
Yeah,
next to
there's a
Keystone?
cornfield, like if you
Is
drive
it-
by
is
it.
it 3 acres?
I think
I
they're
don't
each
know.
about 3 acres.
Because that wouldn't be such a, you know, if we had to go towards eminent domain with that, it's a business, it's a corporation, it wouldn't be...
It's standing water over there.
Oh, it is?
That's what Pat was saying,
Oh,
we're
that particular field, okay.
So how much,
Okay.
so is, in your opinion, because it sounds like you have more intimate knowledge than anybody, is there a location over there between those properties that you could get a 3-acre parcel of dry land, or is it all wet?
Oh, there's 3 acres up there because if you're talking a slab building, yeah, you've got easily 3 acres. If
Okay.
you're talking about putting a basement in up there, you're talking pumps.
Yeah, okay, no, we're not, then we wouldn't be talking basement for certain.
But your 3 acres, correct me if I'm wrong, you're thinking of that whole 6-acre parcel. Somewhere on that 6 acres is 3 acres you can use.
Yeah, and it'd be a little bit further up from where the beginning is. You'd probably be up about 250, 300 feet up by the top there.
Yeah,
It's still a little bit wet, but it's not,
yeah.
you're gonna put a slab building in, no problem at all.
So in relation, just my visual is just driving by it and seeing the perk tests that are up there, how close to those perk tests would you have to be for a building? Would it be...
For a building?
Yeah, for the building
Behind
that
it.
you're describing.
You could put a perk test anywhere and pump to the to the field.
So those perk tests are, I mean, they, just out of memory, I want to say they're
That's the one.
500 feet off the road?
Oh, no, I was thinking the ones that, they were a little bit closer than that, on the first field,
That's the
Okay.
part
where they had
we're talking
the
about.
stakes that were put in.
Yeah, the white tubes.
Those ones about 200, 250
Split.
feet.
The one on the right is a cornfield. The one on the left, I believe, is...
If you have a groundwater table that's high, which you have, you're going to have a lift system anyways. You have to put a tank in and a pump.
Yep.
So anywhere you go, if you want to go 500 feet, it's really going to be the capacity of the pump and the diameter of the piping to get it to wherever you're going.
Yeah. No, I just trying to get perspective, because I thought those perks were way back, but if they're only a couple hundred feet back, then that's about where the building would go also, is what you're saying.
I mean, I just had a septic system designed for a property on High Street that I'm going to build on, and it has a higher water table, and I've got to have a container tank with a pump in it, and it pumps up to where the field is.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to build it
Up off the groundwater.
off the
Yeah.
groundwater, you know, so.
Yeah.
But I'm not having a slab, so that would be easier.
Yeah.
But then we
So,
don't worry about
you know
the
what we're talking
contaminants,
Yes.
about the fire station, I mean, the filling stations.
That area is not in the cone of influence. That's far enough removed. It's when you get behind Heritage Survey itself, and that
Oh, yeah.
parcel.
That's where I've
that's
seen
what-
the
If that is
perk test pipe.
the whole width, I gotta
Well, I don't know where the
How would you
perk test-
construct
You can
a
see it on
heritage?
It's almost like they're behind
You know, in and
the
out.
gas station.
Yeah,
They
If-
seem to be
like that-
quite
if that's
far
the
up.
corner-
off
That's
the
more than
property.
500
You could
feet,
build
yeah.
anywhere
Thought they
there on
were-
that corner.
Yeah, behind the fire
Access Hard
station,
Street.
behind
That'd be
Heritage.
fine.
Don't you want to be able
Yeah,
to drive
fire
in
station's
one
here,
side and
Heritage
come out the
is
other?
like they were.
No,
yeah.
you just need a loop to,
Yeah, where
if
he's
you're gonna have a
talking about
drive-through
is
bays,
way
you
up
just
here
need
is
to be
where
able to
that
go
loop
behind
is.
That's
it.
what I mean.
Above it.
way up,
Yeah.
it's literally
Be
top
able
of
to
the
I think
behind
it's
that, if
maybe,
that's
we may
the-
to clean it up.
I'm
The
assuming-
So
filling
you're saying that that field
Depending on, I mean,
Market
it's a little hard because
is,
perspective,
is, yeah.
yeah.
is
Right.
just
That's
out of
what
the
the
question.
architect-
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's not a
Okay.
question, I'm just pointing out.
I don't
It's
know,
wet.
maybe.
Yeah.
Depends what the
Okay, so
wetland and those
you're
kind
gonna
of
be,
things.
That's the field.
It would,
that's the field, exactly. Boom. Yep.
I mean, if that's,
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk to Mr. Giller,
Yeah.
and we can also approach
I mean,
And we
Keystone.
approach.
It's much more reasonable if we were even thinking about the issue.
yeah, because Keystone,
corporation.
I mean, I don't
I've
know what
always
they're doing,
liked
they
that
may
piece
just
of
keep it
property.
for
Well,
further
We
expansion. might be
approached
their intent.
them
I
years
would
I
have
don't
that
think
piece
their
of
business
property.
selling
is
it.
that well, but I don't
got a
know.
I
negative
don't see that many
response.
trucks anymore.
I don't see.
But you know what? We could ask them again.
Who's this?
Marvin Keystone.
Keystone, ask them again.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it seems like there's not as many trucks, and if their business is off a little bit, that might help their business to get rid of a parcel they're not using. If they were thinking about it for expansion, but now there may not be.
What do they do anyway?
Honestly,
They're distributors for steel pipe,
Yes.
Specialty tubing.
square tubing.
So would you ask the select board to send a letter?
Rectangular tubing.
how about if we just knock on their door?
Yeah, I'd find out who,
Because corporate isn't there.
No.
But we could at least, yeah,
find out who we
Find
would send
out
it
who.
to.
Well, I could run through the Secretary of State's office and find out who the corporate contact is, but the point is,
Well, a local person.
yeah,
They're out, I believe they're out of Jersey.
I mean, it might be appropriate to do both. I'd probably start by knocking on a door and, you know, getting information of wherever the corporate is and
So who do we talk to?
reaching out.
Yeah.
And I forget who had the idea here, but about putting the station or complex in front of where they want to put the marijuana growing facility. If you, well, if you put it in the middle, all they really need is a driveway
Driveway to
going
get
into
out
the
there.
back,
That's right.
right? So that,
It could work out good for everybody.
and they want
That's what I'm
security,
thinking.
and
Yeah.
the police in
yeah,
there.
there you go.
So if they offset some of the costs, so if there's two parcels there for $300,000 each, and we could get them, you know, for, I don't know, $400,000 and give them access in through for their
Yeah.
pot fields, grass is always greener, right?
How many acres you own by Marvin Keystone roughly, do you think?
About three.
About three?
About 3 acres.
So,
Yeah. So,
Ian, want to go with me? Come on, buddy.
Sure.
Okay.
I just think that, you know, I understand where you don't want to take land away from people, residents, but a corporation, I don't feel so,
It might be more amicable,
yes, you know.
or not, yeah.
or not.
But it'd probably be an easier process for the townspeople.
I think it'd be a good presentation for you and I to walk in, though, and talk to Gielaher, if he's owner of the now.
You know, I think from a business standpoint, I don't know how practical that would be for him to do that, you know, as
don't know.
far as,
No idea.
that's obviously his access to those fields. I think that
Yeah, but if all it is access to those fields,
maybe,
I don't know. I mean, you may know more
Make that part of the
stuff.
deal.
We'll talk later, but, I mean, you may know.
You know, you're asking about the contamination, the Google Earth picture, if you read it properly, you can actually see how the hay was cut and where the hay stops getting cut? That's where the plume comes across.
Ah.
When you say plume, what do you mean by that?
There's an underground plume of gas.
Oh.
The old gas station, they call it choke
Yeah.
or whatever.
Underground, yeah.
Why
We
are they
gotta
allowed
teach you where to
do
walk,
that?
because you obviously
Well, that
don't
was
know where to
years and
step.
years ago.
And they're
My property,
they're actively.
See, there's the
in-
gas
in-
station. You see
in
how the
remediation.
grass is
So
not
they're
cut or
constantly
anything? Yeah.
putting
That's
stuff
because the
into the
monitor
ground through their
wells are
test
there.
wells there, so they
Yeah,
can't pump
they
it out.
changed ownerships of physical
And
They
stations.
changed
the next
ownership.
area,
But
that's
Sunoco, I guess,
part of
the
that's
ones
there
that-
too.
Yeah.
Sandry owns it.
And they're,
Sandry and Greenfield owns it.
Yeah.
and they're still
Yeah, you're pretty
trying to
close.
Yeah,
get
but I mean, this is
that
a
better.
You get better
I know, because
Different time of
they
year or
had a
something.
buildup
Yeah.
of barrels that I had a concern with.
Yeah.
Do you remember the TP being there?
Okay,
Yes,
so are we saying,
I remember the student
are we
being-
saying Valley Road we want out? I just, a decision.
I would prefer a more centrally located,
Okay, but do we want to continue looking at it, or do we want to say no? I mean, that's $200,000, money-wise, it was pretty flat.
That's neat.
Some of us-
Why don't we have that note tonight?
so,
You don't have to, but I just want to know if
They
we,
haven't said yes to us either, so I mean, if they come up with a buyer,
yeah. But I mean, do we want to pursue it, or do we want to look elsewhere?
what does it
Yeah, I
look
love
like to
that.
pursue it? I mean, to actually formalize stuff and think about.
Well, we
how you
would
draft it?
have the select board, you know, a recommendation from this committee that select board approve that we would go forward and talk to these people about, you know, making an offer.
I will make a motion to just the opposite, that we not consider this piece of property.
That's
I
fine.
really think it's Because I think it would muddy the waters where we're looking for something more central in town. And that's, again, that's a motion that we not consider as piece, and although the piece of property is a beautiful piece of property, I don't think it would be the proper spot for a public safety complex.
Okay.
So my motion is that we don't consider it.
May I ask?
Well, you got a motion, so you got to do something with it, right? I'll make a second.
Discussion.
I'll make a
Second for discussion, there we are,
For
perfect, thank you.
Instead of a motion to just take it off the table, we make a motion to postpone this action until 30 days goes by, so we have another meeting, we see what we get back from the assessor's office, and it gives these two gentlemen an opportunity to talk to the property owner.
Well, we're meeting on March 11th.
In that case, I rescind my motion.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, we never approved it.
Rescind the
That's
second.
it, doesn't matter, you gotta rescind it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's up there for,
We're meeting on March 11th anyway.
So I rescinded my second also.
okay.
So I hear a motion to
Parliamentary
table this for
rules.
30 days?
Yes.
Or until our next meeting? anyway?
Yes.
March
Laura.
11th.
Motion to table and seconded.
Motion is tabled for 30 days? Seconded, what, you made the motion? Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. And you two gentlemen are going to go talk to that corporation?
Can get it or just? I mean, I
Who's
just, I don't,
talking?
It's in Butler, PA.
So who's driving down?
You got the lights.
That could be quite a
He's got lights too.
Road trip?
road trip. There you go. That sounds like fun.
I think it's worth talking to them about.
I do. I don't argue
I
that.
think
but-
if we look at that property a little bit closer, again, you know, it's one, I agree, you don't want to take property away from people.
Yeah,
residents,
private.
Private people, but corporations, it's a different story. Nobody's really individually
not being
hurt by that.
used.
And it's not even being used. Well, it's being leased, I'm imagining.
The only concern would be if it somehow really handicapped the business in a way that was detrimental.
Well, based on what they've been doing for all these years, it looks like they just
They never
plant
used it.
corn.
I'm in
Yeah.
agreement. That's, but I just put a caveat there in case,
Yeah.
you know,
To
some people.
remind them how we put out their fire
Yeah, there you go.
years ago. It was burning.
There you go.
And again, you know, that they haven't used that piece of property in the
Well,
30-plus years that they've been there, and
it could be a godsend for them to sell it.
that's right, it could be just cash, because if they're not going to use it,
Why not make something off it?
Now,
instead
be
of paying
forewarned.
taxes?
We don't have any perk test data or anything else on that property.
No, no,
Just
no, it's-
because they might be willing to sell, one of the caveats is going to be that we have to be able to, the analysis to determine if we can support a building there.
Yeah, this is just preliminary.
You know, he keeps saying wet, and I keep wondering how wet is.
Put the finger in there. Yeah, I mean, I think anything that would move forward would have to have a caveat that it was
If you're walking
workable,
along
buildable.
Clark Street, and I walk around the block several times a week, off and on for the last 30 years, when you walk along, you go past the ball fields heading towards East Street, that section, that land that's up against Marvin Keystone's driveway, on the right side of their building, from the ditch by the road, back probably a good 100, 150 feet, standing water, except maybe the last 2 weeks of August. And Fletcher plants corn there, and you can see the ruts that he's
Trying to get through.
trying to get through and can't get through. The corn never grows worth a damn because it's all rotten and stuff.
Everything.
But then the rest of the field is pretty good, and he gets this.
Well, the flip side of that is, if it's large enough to use for the complex, then the first 100 feet ends up being lawn and a driveway, so be it,
well, they're going to have the greenest grass in town, I'll tell you right now.
you know?
but it still sounds like it's worth.
I think it's worth it. I think we should explore it.
I actually like that piece of property, liked it since day one,
Yep.
Me too.
for a complex.
Ed, want to chime in?
Yeah, George Bevanata is the person the two of them we're going to want to track down. He's the manager.
All right, maybe we'll
At
keep
that
up with you
place?
afterwards.
Huh?
He's at this location, so,
Yeah.
okay.
And then the other thing is that is also in that same priority habitat of endangered species area that I was
We were talking about.
looking at, so.
Oh, that's one.
That adds more to engineering costs and permitting.
Yeah.
What are they claiming is in there?
That isn't listed, but it's- like I
Coyotes.
say, that whole area is.
There's a habitat
You should hear it.
here.
I believe
It's
that.
unbelievable.
It's pH, I think it's 12,
Right there in the center of town.
15 is that particular track.
Okay. So we'll talk to you before we,
I mean, just,
I shut my bedroom today, so.
when you guys
Somebody
go,
got-
I mean, I don't know
I
if you
think
could
somebody got
consider it,
coyotes.
but maybe even a long-term lease, right? You get a lease for 99 years, something like that, or 50 years, maybe they have a cash flow they like, so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And lifespan of a building is, gonna be that 100 years anyway.
What are
Yeah,
you talking about? The fire station? Over 100?
Yeah, good point.
it's not a good point.
What's the argument here?
So what about other properties? We're waiting to get that list from the assessor, right?
Right, well, that was the whole, I looked at it like, things have slowed down, we get another master list from the assessor's office, we get together here, decide what we think might be workable and do a reach out to those property owners.
Okay, thought I'm just gonna throw out, that is the pumpkin patch completely dead, or is it because it's stuck in the middle of politics as we speak?
And,
Honest.
yeah, and
I don't know.
if I was gonna, I mean, I'm not holding back about being vocal. If it was possible, I mean, I've talked to you a little bit about the thought of maybe doing some sort of like citizens petition or putting it on a town meeting that we offer LaBreeze some of what they're looking for, which is to develop that property.
All I can say is right now, we are looking at hearsay and rumors,
Exactly.
But if we knew what some of the roadblocks were,
but we don't.
but if we did, then we could put a
Will you come
petition,
and talk to us?
and put a petition together,
I suspect not.
and put a petition together to get
Can we
him,
approach them?
what he wants.
Yeah.
And then put that to
But
town
don't
meeting and
ask
let
me
the
to.
So
discussion
basically
happen.
find out what he wants first.
Find out what he
I will.
wants, and then offer that.
I'd
Find out what the lawyers want.
I'd be willing to talk to them.
I'm in an awkward position. Eugene and me have been friends since days of school. We used to be on the ambulance and fire department together. We have bought a lot of properties together. We see each other probably twice a week. And it's getting to the point where I don't feel like talking to my friend anymore because there's this undercurrent going on. And frankly, I've had it.
And so maybe that's a good time for you to step back on that. So maybe the thing, I mean, if it felt comfortable talking to him, just to get a sense, I mean,
Well, I didn't-
maybe it's impassable.
I did business with them too, and,
You did business with me, we're still talking.
yep,
And if we could figure out,
that's because Ford's lasts longer. Look at my Ford.
Yeah, look at it.
Can I ask, hey Ed, what was the last conversation our attorney and their attorney had, and where was it left?
Yeah.
What you can tell us anyways.
Yeah, there just had not been anything to reach back out to town.
So we've contacted them and they haven't reached back out
Yeah.
after a couple contacts, okay. So,
so if we got a sense of what they wanted,
yeah,
maybe it wouldn't be something that the town could work with, or maybe it could. Maybe it would be something that we could put on a ballot and bring up for the town to discuss as a whole. Because there's going to be some people who, whatever issues there are, aren't interested in having that discussion with them, but the town as a whole could have
yeah.
some discussion about it, if it was a reasonable thing that they're looking for. Don, you might be the perfect person to go in and talk.
Well, they did
I
make,
mean, Ian and I would
they
go with you if you
they
needed
did
to.
make the offer.
Oh,
They
yeah.
did make the offer, that's
They were
what, that's what,
very, very sincere. They wanted to take and do this.
and that's what makes me think, maybe that offer isn't dead. Maybe there's a way that if we went and talked to them and we could figure out what they were looking for, and if we thought it was something that we could do a citizen's petition to put it on a ballot, or, get it onto a ballot, and make it a town discussion as to whether we'd give them the concessions for what they want to give to us.
Yeah, we don't know that there is, because we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know if they want, if they're looking for something, they're worried about something.
Would you feel comfortable approaching it?
Yeah, I'd take a swing at it, sure.
Would you like Ian and I with you?
Well, let me approach them first and see. And
And somehow, Don, you walking in with these two, I don't know if that's
That
advantageous.
doesn't look good.
You're probably smoother on your own.
If you want to get in really easy, just have me cuffs and say we
I can
finally got
remember,
him.
I can remember living on a strong road, and the tones would go out. And there'd be about a 5-truck response from the dairy farm on Valley Road down Strong Road.
And I was the odd man that went down Route 10.
And all the kids there, the Parker kids and my kids and all that sort of stuff. And there goes Blue Jean! Everybody thought his name was Blue Jean.
Oh, it's too huge.
That's funny. So you're saying you're volunteering to reach out and see
Yes.
if there is a way that he's willing to donate
Yeah,
still,
see if we can get a
in what
dialogue going,
conditions?
See if he'll share with us what he sees as his path forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if a citizen's
think,
petition would help, that might be a
And would
good
he
thing.
be willing, whatever these conditions might be, if there's any, to formalize them to the town?
I'll be very honest with him. Hey, my goal is to see if we can't get this thing going.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Or just drop it.
what can we do to,
Yeah.
How is his health? Is he healthy enough to talk to God?
This is a public meeting that's being recorded.
Yeah, it's
And
probably,
there are HIPAA violations that you're asking me to
Okay.
reach.
gotta be careful.
Ignore the question.
I mean, I know things about your son that I'm not allowed to
Well, let's not put that on tape either.
That's why you're Sunday.
I know.
And this is being recorded.
Yeah, it's an honest concern, but yeah, we do gotta be careful with the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
I agree.
I mean, and otherwise, if there's no other land that comes out of the assessor's list, meeting on a regular basis really isn't helping it. Maybe it's just put the committee in mothballs till something pops up again, you know?
Yeah, because certainly if nothing pops out of the Keystone, if nothing pops out of LaBrie moving forward, and there's no real viable land
the assessor,
centrally
yeah.
located, then yeah, it's almost like we need to mothball because it's going nowhere.
It'll be nice to see the assessor's reports to you, too.
Yeah, she said she'd put it together. She asked me when. I said beginning of March, because it takes time to put all of it together.
Yeah.
We reached out to a handful, I don't want to say a dozen different property owners at one time, and a lot of them said no. Maybe it's time to reach out.
and some of them say, well, look at the property in question on Wayne's.
Yeah, there was a
Wouldn't
number
give
of
us the
them.
time of day.
Yeah,
Gorton was another one.
yeah.
Did
know,
Loico sell that piece right across from Pomeroy? That grassy area right next to JP's? Is that his?
That's owned by the Dunkin' Donuts, yeah.
Oh, is that right?
That's at the
That's
town
it.
meeting for a vote for zone change.
Yeah.
The other option this committee has is to go to a realtor and ask a realtor to keep an eye
Yeah.
for any land that might be available,
Well, I think
instead of us trying to do it.
that would be good.
That doesn't cost us anything.
Do you want to do that?
Do I want to do that?
You're the re-elected chair.
You're the re-elected chair.
Boy, that window's looking more and more tempting.
You'd only hurt yourself at this level.
Oh, you know, you guys would carry me back, that's what scares me.
Jeff,
I
security?
didn't want a second floor meeting room, but no, you guys put it in.
But, that'd be a good idea, seriously.
Yeah.
Did I jump out the window? Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm dealing with a realtor on this. It's Colwell Banker.
Yeah.
I'll ask them if they're willing to do that.
And she's a buyer's agent too,
Yeah.
so that's a good thing.
And April West is very knowledgeable, too, in town.
Yeah. She's back in real estate too. I mean, any realtor could come to you and say, hey, if realtors know we're looking,
Yep,
we don't care which one comes to us.
yeah. I think if the word is
Maybe more
out,
than one.
yeah.
So you want to do that?
I think we just,
Put the word out
yeah,
there.
put all the irons into the fire, because honestly, if we don't get something stoking, nothing's gonna
In
happen.
the meantime, you gentlemen are going to be meeting with Marvin
Yeah,
Keystone,
Marvin,
and
Yeah.
you'll have a discussion with Eugene and Jimmy.
Yeah, see what kind of avenues we can get open.
I just want to make sure, they just, hopefully, Pumpkin Patch is still open as an avenue.
That would be,
Because to me, that is the absolute,
I think we
to
would,
me
I
personally.
think we, I'm maybe a finite optimist, but I think we would have heard if it wasn't, if for some reason,
Nobody has said no.
Yeah.
You mean if it was a definitive no, we would have heard already?
yeah, because it was a definitive, yeah, they want to offer it to the town. I think the problem is it's just got a sticky wicket someplace.
I like your optimism. That's
Yep,
good.
I do too.
I mean, it went so far, the originally when it started, we had concept plans and everything else put together.
Yeah.
I mean, it was rolling, and then,
So speaking of which, is there any sense that we want to reinvestigate this parcel over here? Or is that kind of?
what I understood from the town meeting vote, this is my impression,
Yeah.
was people weren't so much concerned about the land cost of building here
Yeah.
as to how much the overall cost of construction was.
Yeah, that was the 10.5.
Right.
But
Now,
remember-
if we came back with a number of 7 or 8
Yeah.
on that property,
It's a significant amount of money.
I know,
Reduction.
I know.
But there is also just a, I wasn't on it when you guys did it. I've been involved in many buildings and large buildings and so on. And there was a lot of cuts that could have been, my opinion, the double tier of the building and everything else. How much did that add to it?
The
Probably about
double
$1 million.
tier, yeah.
Million right off the bat.
And then you had the
Yeah.
elevators, so
Yeah.
there was,
And some of the problem
we'll
there
say
is
a $250,000 to be conservative.
you can't take down the station that's there now. That makes.
That was an underlying big problem.
Yeah, that's, makes it.
That was working around that.
Yeah, and there's ledge, so it's like your elevations are, there's some trickiness to it still, you know.
I've got you, but
Yeah.
no doubt about it. A lot of times, though, new construction like that, you get around a lot of it. You can move things around, angle things or whatever, but, by just looking at it from a third-person point of view, 'cause I wasn't involved with the committee back then, but when I did see the building, a lot of red flags went up for me where, double tiers and everything else, and I'm sitting there going, they didn't,
Yeah,
no, it's not you sell a basic building to the taxpayer. That's what they want.
Yeah, you know
well,
what?
I mean, it's available.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that, because we put a bunch of irons into the fire, I'd say let's just stoke everything and see which ones start to
So how does
get a
this
little
sound?
brighter.
You do Marlboro Keystone,
Yep.
you do Bill Breeze. We get the assessors list, see what's going on there. We put that land sort of on the back burner for the next month or two until we see what comes out of the rest of this,
Talk to a real estate.
and talk to the realtor, and if nothing comes out in the next couple of months, we revisit that site. The whole original committee's vote at the direction of the select board back then, and I was not on the select board back then, was they wanted us to keep it centralized to the town hall.
It would be nice.
Now, are you saying that a building, you think another building of a different design would
You would basically be taking like
meet
quite a
that
few-
terrain?
good possibility of it.
Yeah, with the terrain.
I don't have any idea of, the discussions you had with the architect and the engineer and everything
The
else.
reason they went up a lot is because of the bedrock underneath too. But one thing that the first committee did wrong, that I've been involved with construction for the state for 20 years, is they said to the designer, talk to the police chief, talk to the fire chief, find out what they want. That's just what he did. And we have this beautiful building with brick facade. I mean, the way we would do it in the state is, here's our budget. What can you design and then sit down with these two folks. You know, you don't go and say, you know, tell me what you want, then back into that and say it's 10.5 million. You say we got a budget, so let's figure out what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we necessarily wanted the brick design.
Yeah.
No,
I think
that came with the.
But he designed the Taj Mahal because we didn't give him a budget.
Right.
You know, if we gave him a budget, you guys would sit down and say, okay, here's what we got.
Yeah, because honestly, we'd be happy with the Butler building.
Yeah, for your part.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
His part of the
I-
Butler building is fine.
I think,
Well, then
I think
that opens up
historically,
the other
they were trying to, like some of the brick, tie it into what was there.
Right, I think they wanted
make
to
it
keep
fit
the
into a
historical.
Yeah,
town.
remember they did the look of the front of the
Yeah,
fire?
which is a great idea if you have all the money in the world.
That's the 10.5.
Yeah.
Always remember, engineers get paid based upon the cost of the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
So the more that they can charge for the building,
They're
more
10 or
money they make.
20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So,
That still opens up the other question.
which is,
Do we build a separate building for police and a separate building for fire?
Depends where they are, right?
yeah, it depends. I mean, I think we look at that as we come across it. I mean, I think they could work well together. I think we do work well together. I think it could work well together. I think it's kind of makes benefit if it's a one-stop shopping. I think it's more a matter of what iron stokes the biggest flame and meets the requirements of what we're trying to do here.
The other thing that way back when, and a lot of people had this whole concept, and that was that, you know, the town was expanding and we're going to need more fire apparatus and everything else. I'm always sitting there going, no, with the fire apparatus and so on they have coming out today, that they're multi-purpose. You get a lot more from one apparatus than they used to be able to. One was an attack engine, another one was a hook and ladder, you know, all different types.
Yeah.
Today, the foam comes on with the, whatchamacallit. You don't need a separate foam truck.
No.
Foam can come on the, whatchamacallit, on the pumper.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to also
So-
just sit with you and show you the trucks that we were considering and kind of the bays that we were considering. And I think there again, it's a little bit of a challenge because, I mean, we can't fit what we need to in the station.
Exactly.
We don't even have a tanker. The tanker that we had needed work, wasn't even worth rebuilding, gave it back to the state. You know, hopefully we're going to write a federal grant for that if possible. There's some brush gear that would be nice to have, you know, and so I really want to plan for what makes sense for us now with enough room for if there's some change in the future. But I want to be cost conscious. So I don't want to give up a bay only just because I want to make it, I don't want to be already outgrown when we move into it. That would be a concern for me. I don't think I'd be making a good decision to back if we're outgrown with what we're putting in new. I'm also not looking to build, 18 bays when we don't need 18 bays. So happy to have a conversation of what we got, what we're looking to get, what makes the most sense for, what is the right size for a cost of a building.
Basically, literally start with the cost.
Yeah, I would rather give up the brick facade than to have a little bit extra room.
Right.
I guess is my final.
You were laying out our plan going forward, but I want to be some of Don's optimistic here. I think we should contact the Gallagher's because, to me, as I'm thinking about it, if he had the safety complex in front of that facility and just had I'll call it a road, whatever you need to get back there, I mean, to me, that would really appeal to the community, and it would hide the facility, it would give security, and they don't need the front. They're pretty much set. They just need like 30 acres.
They might appreciate the extra security having the police station.
Well, I
right
know,
there.
but also, and this gentleman came and talked to us twice, and he seemed concerned about the community. He wanted to be part of the community. It may be a sales pitch or not, I'm not sure, but I mean, I took him as being pretty honest. So this may be something that we can sell, and Mr. Gallagher would get a heck of an advantage out of this too, because we could lease the land if they wanted to, as an option.
Yep.
And keep the dog sniffing dog home, the drug sniffing dog home. Okay.
Well, give them a good place to practice.
But they also said you wouldn't smell or anything outside the walls, so that would be proof. But seriously, I don't think we should give up on that because you don't care, do you?
No.
Whether it's this parcel or that parcel.
It makes no difference at all.
Exactly. And if it's a win-win-win,
It's worth looking into.
so do you want to also follow up with him, Mr. Gallagher?
Sure, yeah, actually have, yeah.
Because maybe we can sit down and bring him and I forget the gentleman's name that's representing the firm, and maybe sit down and say, hey.
Yeah, what I'd written down was to talk to Giller and Clark Street property and, touch base with Ed for that.
Yeah.
Another piece just to bring up, and it doesn't have to do with looking for a piece of property for the complex, but one of the commentaries I heard after last situation was, well, they had no plan, and it doesn't fall under this group, but they had no plan of what to do with the old building once the police department's out of it.
That's always going to be a concern because it's too hard to, the problem that we had, correct me if anybody's got input, but the problem was that our focus was trying to get a building, and if we tried to incorporate what we were going to do with the old building, it increased the cost substantially. And so if we were actually trying to distance ourselves from that and give it to the historic, because they are the ones who have the highest interest in.
Right, you're misunderstanding me. It's not, this committee, it's not their bailiwick to even think about what to do with that building.
Yeah.
But it's up to whether it be the Board of Selectmen to turn around and create another quote-unquote committee where if this takes off and we know the police department's going to be gone, of what will be what are they going to do with that building?
That's true.
One of the discussions when I was on the select board was to form a committee to look at the expansion of the senior center and a cultural center. Right. That was going to be the old town hall, the old police station. The other discussion was to let the water department use the old fire station for their storage of equipment and trucks. And that's what was discussed.
And there was some thought, because the other thing is, I used to be in a historic board in a previous town, and, fire department, we're saving buildings, that's what we do. Right. So one thought is, you move the historic part of the building and use it as, move it into a part of this property here, where they could have a functioning room out of it, a meeting room of sorts. So you wouldn't necessarily keep the wings of the building. You may just keep, the top half, and then rebuild the walls underneath and rebuild it. So I think there's a couple of things that could.
I'm going to get back to what Pat said. That's really not a. No, I don't know if we want to.
It's not our bailiwick, but I think that particular issue should be addressed at the same time, not by this committee.
I just want to make a comment. Finish what you're going to say, but I want to have something to say about myself. Within the last 6 months, less than 6 months, the Historic Commission, Ed knows, has had 2 consulting engineers do walkthroughs, the old town hall, with an idea on what the possibilities are.
Excellent.
Going forward. So we just got a response from one of them was Hill Engineering, and another one's an architect named Devlin out of Springfield. So there's activity in that direction.
Good. The Community Preservation has donated funds or allocated funds for a site assessment for that building.
And then as somebody just mentioned, the water department is interested in the old fire station.
It's kind of funny, but if those 2 things fell in, I think that would gain an incredible amount of momentum for the whole project. Because a lot of people did not want to see dilapidated buildings. Again, you remember what happened to the old Grange? That actually became an eyesore.
How many of us here actually lived in town at that point?
I remember the Grange.
I do.
I know the Grange.
But the issue is, though, if you're spending $7-8 million on the safety complex, and you got to spend $1 million here, $4 million, you're going to ask the town people to spend a lot of money.
Water department wants that down there. You're not spending a penny. That's the water department's bailiwick.
That's going to cost.
But that also becomes eligible for historic money.
Okay.
Okay, there's other funding sources once that's there.
So that would be good.
And when I was meeting with the secretary relative to the bridge on East Street, we went through there, and he was explaining how money could be available through the state because there's a building with the same design that they refurbished to being in one of the towns as I guess it's a meeting room type situation because of all the buried finished woodwork that's in that old town hall that you don't see.
Yeah.
And he was looking at that telling me, circle back to us and we can start talking about funding sources.
But again, I'm not trying to take us off our original, but I just want to point out that, you know, it's kind of, it's not our bailiwick, we have nothing to do with it, but it's something that is the full, if you're going to go for it, it's part of the full concept.
So it's a selling point if we go with that property.
That is correct.
Yeah, if we go with a different property and didn't have to dance around. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, either way.
Either way, doesn't
Yeah.
make a difference.
it's almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
We seem to all have our marching orders.
Yep.
We've also.
Can I just go over, I was trying to write down the plan.
Okay.
So,
The plan is you are going to speak to the LaBrie family,
right,
the fire chief and
you've
the police chief.
got a search going with the assessors.
I got a search going with the assessors, and I'm going to talk to a broker about seeing if there's other lands available.
Do you want to read back to us what you got? And then
Well, I got the assessor, and Charlie's doing that.
Yeah.
And Charlie's gonna talk to realtors.
Yeah, I'll talk to the realtor that we've been working with the other
I'm
day.
gonna talk to LaBrie,
Yeah.
and
And
the chiefs are gonna talk to Marmon Keystone.
And Gilaher. We're gonna,
Time for the public.
we could.
yeah, we're gonna keep the,
I got a note down here. John Martin's gonna talk to Ryan. He said,
Talk to,
Ryan Gielager.
you said, oh, this John Workman.
yeah,
You did the minutes last time, right?
yeah, the fire chief.
Yes, chief.
The fire chief
Well,
is
this is
there.
fire chief.
That's cool. If I do something wrong,
John Workman.
he's getting blamed.
Right.
Yeah.
All right,
All right,
open time for the public?
Hi, I'm Tammy Wilderness, 298 College Highway. I would like to ask
Can they hear?
more about
I don't
something
know.
that...
I don't know if they can hear you, Tammy.
Oh, jeez. Can I leave my back to them?
Yeah.
Tammy Wilderness, 298 College Highway. To play off of something that Chief Workman brought up with the petition of the citizens, if we find out that LaBries are still willing, can we move forward with a petition to get it to move with the Board of Selectmen, since every time I bring it up, it's passed over?
What do you bring up that's passed over, Tammy?
I bring up, we had land donated to us, and it's set, and Reedie's always saying, there's no communication among the lawyers.
And that's what our lawyers are telling us. We've tried several times to have our lawyer contact theirs, and they ended up just not getting back to us. Is that accurate, Ed?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and potentially we could do a citizen's petition just with
To
signatures.
do what?
Well, I don't know, that's the thing, that's,
To-
if there's viable, I
If
don't know
it's
what it
still
is.
available, show that the people feel that that is the appropriate place for it, so you guys can get going on a real safety complex.
Yeah, what
Instead
we're
of-
waiting for is them to say, yes, it's available, but we want this, this, and this. And they haven't been forthcoming on that. And there's some issues that we can't talk about here because of HIPAA and all that stuff, but yeah. Many members of the select board are very anxious to get this done.
But it also sounds like many members don't want to, because it will be a hindrance to other people in town, having the police station there, or the safety complex there.
I'm not denying that, but
Okay.
I will go on record saying I'm in favor of that spot because I think it's a great spot.
Okay.
I do too.
Yeah.
If you're going to an annual town meeting, I think you need 10 signatures for a petition.
Yeah.
I checked that, but I think that's all you need.
Yeah, so if Don talks to them and this group decides it's a good thing to bring forward, we can do a citizen's petition, I think.
But I don't think, sorry, let me grab it in a second. I don't think it's needed. If we had something concrete from the landowner saying, we want to donate 3.5 acres, but here's what we want from the town, be it a letter saying whatever, that can go to the select board And I'll push a vote on it right then and there and let people raise their hand or not raise their hand, so we'll know where people stand.
But it's
Sounds good.
Still, it's just the 5 of you making the decision when there's a ton of people in town.
We're still gonna go to town meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Still gonna go to
Yeah,
town meeting.
okay.
We can't buy anything on our own.
Because
But it's just pushing it and putting it on the town meeting without having to go through this petition.
we would just know where they stand,
Yeah.
and they could either move it forward, or if they didn't, then we could decide to go
Then you do
forward
the
with it-
people.
with it.
Now, Ed, how does a people's petition get on a town meeting? It's not like, is it a warrant article? Is
It's a
it-
warrant article.
So it's just like a regular warrant article?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be, and like I said, Ted's signatures.
And
And
correct me if I'm wrong, if they petition the select board, the select board's obligated to put it on there, as it is written.
I mean, I was gonna
Yeah,
say, we
language
can't,
can't be
we
changed.
can't change it. If it's a citizen's petition, it has to go
If it
as it.
says, want Bozo the Clown, it sticks with, you know,
But I
well,
want-
you laugh.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
no,
been
no,
a
no,
lot
I-
of petitions over the years that we've seen
Yeah.
that the language really didn't reflect the intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we have something saying, here's what we'll do in exchange for that land, select board will vote on it.
Yeah, and
I can't guarantee where the votes will go, but
if we can start a dialogue, I mean, we've got a good
Yeah.
group here. I think,
But-
you know,
I do.
between a dialogue and if it was something we could work with and put forward, I think this group could write something that was
Yeah.
a good petition.
But it still doesn't mean that the select board has to do anything with it. Remember that. You can bring the citizens petition all you want. But if you got some members of the board that really don't want to take any action on it, guess what? It goes nowhere.
But-
And any purchase of property within the town, I believe, must go through the Board of Selectmen.
but if it goes
It's
to
not
town meeting,
necessarily a purchase.
For the final
well,
It's an
signature.
it'd be a donation.
A donation.
Yeah.
Still,
I can't see it going to town
Still
meeting,
is on.
passing, and then the select board saying no. I don't know if that's even possible, Ed. If somebody wanted to donate land, could the select board say no and not, you know?
Yeah, you don't have to accept it.
no.
We have a letter of
But
donation.
there must be a way around that, then.
Well, technically, I suppose if they took no action and
Yeah.
closing never occurred or any of that.
Right.
Okay, so let's keep optimism going here. So let's get what you're gonna find
A
and
lot of people
work it through.
working behind you.
Yeah, and the faster you can do that, the faster we can put it on an agenda.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see it in May.
Well, it'd be nice to have it on a select board agenda before.
Yeah. you gotta have
Yes,
that.
we have,
Much
we made town
Sooner the
meeting.
better. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
So you want to see this in March, April?
I mean, if we
April the
can,
latest.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're stoking all the fires.
Be
mean-
late, be early April. What's it, 4 weeks for town meeting? Posting? Posting an article at town meeting is 4 weeks?
Not that long.
No,
Is it
1 week.
1 week?
1 week,
1 week?
Yeah.
yes. Especially
My
it's 2
God,
weeks.
you have just expedited things faster than I've ever seen.
And I'm personally thinking by sending our best negotiator, this could come up real quick.
Oh, yeah, look at them.
Follow fire.
Yeah, I tell you, man.
All right, well, thank you for addressing
Thanks for bringing
that.
that up, Tammy.
Anybody else want to pick on Don?
Am I saying anything, Rich?
Yeah.
You in agreement?
God's our hero.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Most to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done deal.
You hang on, let's get this off.
You in agreement with this, Rich?